To wrap up this week's readings and our videos, we pay attention to Jesus as he now speaks to the crowds. Notice that this collection of parables comes just shortly after Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount. And we looked at that a couple weeks ago. A set of teachings that was very direct and clear and easy to grasp. It was central to his whole preaching message as he delivered it to his disciples, who were gathered around him on the mountain that day. Now, what we're told is that whenever Jesus turns his attention to the mixed crowds, the multitudes that gathered from east and west, that included his disciples to be sure, but also many who were seeking to undermine him, seeking to attack him, seeking to find some evidence to use against him. They were mixed into those crowds as well. When he spoke to those, what the Gospels tell us is he always used parables. Now, parables are fun. They're earthly stories with heavenly meaning. And in our parables in this section for today, there may be a few of your favorites. The parable of the farmer scattering seed, the parable of a lamp and what you're supposed to do with it, the parable of growing seeds, of yeast, the parable of a mustard seed, and of fishing and using a net. These are just a few of the ones that were in our collection of parables today, but notice how each of them brings some aspect of truth about the kingdom of God. But for some of them, the disciples then and us today need Jesus' help to interpret them. And so whenever Jesus would teach in parables, he would always take his disciples aside and say, "Did you get what I meant? Did you understand the deeper meaning in what I was trying to say?" The crowds weren't meant to grasp it because they weren't committed to knowing and following Jesus, but because you are. When you look at these simple stories, you also can see some profound truth about how God works in hidden and mysterious ways, like yeast in a dough. About how he scatters his seed, the good news of Jesus, and in some places it takes root, and in others it withers and fades. These timeless truths from Jesus still speak truth to our lives today as well. So lean into these parables. If they're hard to understand, ask someone for help. Wrestle with what Jesus is saying, the deep meaning behind the simple truth of the story he tells. And as you do so, he'll draw you ever closer to him.